Slovis back to pass. Slovis walks into the end zone. Slovis dancing out of pressure. Slovis dives for the end zone. He's got it.
ESPN's Adam Rittenberg and Tom Van Haren give midseason grades to each transfer quarterback, Jarom.
Are we just going to ignore the jazz flute that was beautifully played during that music video, like Ron Burgundy?
I'm not even prepared.
I'm not even prepared to this.
Pull the jazz flute out of the sleeve and go to work. It was well played by our content team.
Nice.
Transfer quarterbacks being graded by some of ESPN's insiders, and Kedon Slovis obviously falls into that category. He is on topic today. They gave Slovis a B for his first 5 games.
Yeah.
Which grade would you give Kedon Slovis through his first 5 games as the BYU quarterback?
I want to preface this by saying how comfortable, like I said to Kedon yesterday, is we are with him. No one's going, you know what needs to be better? Kedon Slovis. Like, Kedon Slovis has been very good. I give him a straight-up B as well. I could even argue for higher.
Yeah.
But the numbers aren't like, setting the world on fire. But, again, BYU has run the 3rd fewest plays in college football. So I'm not looking at a lot of totals right now. What I am looking at is efficiency in certain areas. Red zone scoring, BYU is 92% right now and scored 13 times and 17 times.
Yes.
Touchdowns, specifically. Only sacked 6 times. That is O-line. That is Kedon avoiding the rush as well. That is 20th fewest in the country. In the 10 to 20-yard range, he's 25 of 46, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I like that kind of intermediate game that we talked about, him perhaps being a little better than Zach and Jaron at. And then you look at some of the totals. And again, these aren't setting the world on fire. QBR, he's kind of middle of the pack, 54th. Yards per attempt, 57th. Passer rating, 57th. EPA, that's expected points added, 49th. 10 to 3 touchdown to interception ratio. Like, these are fine. They're not, like, amazing. They're not terrible. Again, the schedule is tougher. He's got 18 pass plays of 20-plus, like BYU's being explosive. I really liked his awareness, presence, leadership, poise, exemplified by having 38 yards of total offense against Cincinnati before that final drive. BYU didn't just kneel it out. They let him cook with whatever kind of oil you cook with, avocado oil probably for you, Spence, right? 3 plays, 82 yards, 30 seconds to give BYU the lead that they never relinquished. That told me a lot about how much Aaron Roderick trusts Kedon Slovis, because BYU totally could have kneeled it out. I really like what he's done so far this year. It's not setting the world on fire numerically, but it is getting BYU to a point where when there's good field position, when you get a takeaway, even if you're not making things happen, Kedon Slovis and this offense are playing well enough for 4-1 at this point.
I'm going to give him a B+, and here's why. Humor me, and let's just look at a little closer at the metrics that you just put up, specifically with ESPN's QBR. If you take out the Sam Houston game, which was by far Kedon Slovis' worst game of the season, but admittedly, Aaron Roderick said, I just shut down the offense in large part in the second half. We weren't doing anything. We were just handing the ball off. And we just needed to get out of there, and it was not going well. And the offensive line was haywire, and guys were in the wrong places. Nobody was helping Kedon out. So he took a terrible quarterback rating grade in that game. So I looked at the numbers. I said, okay, what if we wiped away the 30? He had a QBR of 30 in that Sam Houston game. Terrible, right? Let's wipe that away and just look at what he's done in the 4 games after that. In fact, let's just go to the 3 Power 5 games. So I looked at his QBR in the 3 Power 5 games that he has played. It averages out to 71.6, which is much better than down around 63.9, where he is, which ranks 54th in the country. If you go to 71.6, just against Power 5 foes, and all these other quarterbacks have played FCS foes too, right?
Yeah.
71.6 would rank 35th, just ahead of one Shedeur Sanders at Colorado.
Interesting.
Okay? Now, if we add...
Now it's personal.
If we add Southern Utah into the mix and remove only the Sam Houston game, and again, I know...
Let's get as selective as we want, right? Let's do it.
Just take out the one bad game against Sam Houston and the 4 games. It moves up closer to 73.9, which would make him almost top 25 in the country in QBR. It'd be 28 tied with Spencer Rattler of South Carolina and Taulia Tagovailoa from Maryland. Both those guys have been pretty good for their respective teams.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was kind of an anomaly in the Sam Houston game. It's an aberration because he has 30, and then everything else has been way above that. At Kansas, with the 3 interceptions, he scores like a 60, but outside of that, it's been pretty good. So I'm grading on a curve, if you will.
Yeah.
I'm removing the low. The low was Sam Houston.
Probably remove the high, too.
That was Southern Utah.
Gymnastics.
The high was Southern Utah. The low was
go.
Sam Houston.
That's
and now
more
you're
of
left
what
with
you
the
actually
3
are.
Power 5 teams, the best teams BYU's played, and I get a 71.6, would put him 35th in the country.
I want this kind of grading at the judgment bar. I don't want the low or the high included. I want what I did in the middle of that.
35 is almost top 4th in college football. There are 133 teams, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's great. That's where we want to be.
He's top quarter, essentially, among all Division I quarterbacks against Power 5 opponents.
This is with no run game. This is with a stinky run game. What if BYU gets a run game? Now your boy can cook on play action. Because right now, people aren't biting on play action from BYU much. So if and when that starts, which, by the way, Aiden Robbins putting in extra work after practice yesterday, so hopefully he's getting better and can be in the mix at some point. I don't know if that means this week or not.
I was told on Coordinator's Corner a couple of weeks ago that they're hopeful that he plays against TCU.
That'd be great. We have yet to really see Aiden be Aiden.
And he was not healthy to begin the season.
Yeah.
He was not healthy to begin the season.
So let's see if he can't help a brother out. Because, again, this is with no run game.
I know.
If he had a run game, he'd be way up there numerically in certain stuff. Maybe some of the pass numbers come down. But I'm telling you, Riley Nelson's point is still super valid about limited play action so far this year.
Well, if Aiden Robbins is healthy and the run game is healthy and the offensive line is performing how we thought they were, then maybe Kedon Slovis has a better grade overall. Because being the quarterback, as unfair as it is, like if the offense isn't doing well, you just naturally point to the quarterback and like, what's the deal?
You should be getting the most NIL money. There's an accounting there. One from your accountant of the NIL money, but also from us of credit or blame, right? But yeah, it takes 11 guys to succeed on offense. It really does. But the quarterback, obviously.
I'm going to give him the B plus. Maybe he's an A minus if the run game's going though.
If I walked out of the testing center, the Heber J. Grant building, on this very campus, and I saw any kind of B up there, I was so
success.
Because the first time I walked out, let's just say it was an F. I was like, 38? Holy crap! Topic 2.
Sam Houston game. Throw it out,
38.
man. Throw it out.
38. Feels like the amount of rush yards per game BYU has right now. They can get that up. Let's go. I think it's 62. Topic 2. Is anything above the bottom 2 spots in the Big 12 preseason poll, which we expect today or tomorrow, good enough for BYU men's hoop? Like not 14th or 13th?
Probably. The conference is so good.
It's very good.
It's so good that if BYU shows up at number 12, I will be like, hey, that's not too shabby. Because of what BYU's done the last 2 years. And BYU didn't make the NIT last year, right?
I heard that.
2 years in a row, they have finished 5th in the West Coast Conference. And now you go to the Big 12. The other teams that are kind of near the back end with BYU are probably UCF, and then Cincinnati. But even Cincinnati went to an Elite 8 in the NIT, eventually losing to Mark Madsen's Utah Valley Wolverines.
Yes, and they brought in some top 100 guys, by the way.
So I'm guessing that BYU's probably going to be picked to finish 13th. Don't be entirely shocked that Johnny Dawkins and UCF are 13th and BYU is picked last at number 14. That would not surprise me at all.
Yeah.
So to answer your question specifically, though, if they're above the bottom 2 spots and they're at number 12, yes, that is plenty good for BYU basketball and, frankly, a little bit better than I am expecting. I think BYU is going to come in at number 13 out of the 14 teams. Are you good with not being in the bottom 2? Is that good enough?
Would I be good with it? Sure. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter at all.
Football was in the bottom 4.
BYU was 11th in that. And for the football team, that works great. I don't know on the basketball team. Typically, basketball is good enough to be NIT plus, right? It's rare if they're not. this team certainly has to play well to get into the NIT. So let alone the NCAA tournament. So I'm not sure if the basketball team needs that kind of motivation or not. I don't know, like, what triggers them more, love or hate or fear. Like, what's the emotion that kind of drives them the most? Whatever. All I know is BYU is going to be in the bottom 3, like, for sure. And then they've got to kind of climb out of that perception. And they're going to win some games at home that we're like, we did not see that coming, but we know that BYU in the Marriott Center has got a shot. We've seen it too many times where BYU plays a good game against a formidable foe, and it's this huge underdog, but the Marriott Center juice and da-da-da. Which, by the way, every single men's basketball game in there, in league especially, it's going to be nuts because the tickets, like, it's hard to get a ticket. It's hard. Like, the lower bowl, like, season tickets, like, didn't even get to the public. It was Cougar Club only. Like, it is. I have friends and family that are like, oh, I had these seasons tickets down here. Now I'm, like, way up there. The demand is crazy. So if BYU struggles, and that may occur, likely, right, in the first year, keep going in January and February, because a couple of those wins can build at the end of the season towards, I don't know, maybe getting to the NIT, and maybe next year. But it attracts Colin Chandler to be like, yes, I'm still
BYU's
in on BYU.
building. Yeah.
And other guys, right? That BYU, which, by the way, next 3 weeks, huge for BYU basketball. They're trying to attract some really good freshmen to come here, and some are post-mission, some are right away for next year, and BYU needs those guys. We can't say their names, but text me and I'll tell you.
Sometimes
you know who they are.
There is great power in having very low expectations.
Sure.
And there's certainly huge opportunity when expectations are so low.
Yeah.
A quick story, and I know you know this because we've laughed about this together. And I don't know that I've ever told this on the show. Oh. We're going here today. Okay? And I'm not going to give specific names because there are certain leaders involved at BYU. Okay? But when BYU Sports Nation was first presented as going to TV, that idea from the beta test that was radio only to taking it as a simulcast and rolling this out at the West Coast Conference Tournament on TV, one of our good friends and a previous leader said, okay, it can't be worse than anything else that's on at 10 o'clock in the morning on BYUtv, right?
What was on before us? Well, I agree with that sentiment.
And I was like, wow, there are no expectations for us. But our boss at the time, Michael Miner, said, this is exactly where you want to be. It's exactly where you want to be. Because there are no expectations.
Well, yeah, if they're like, you need to reach X. And
so go and perform and watch what happens.
Yeah.
And so there's great power in that sometimes. The opportunity was there. And fortunately, because all of you are awesome and engaged with us and grew the audience and helped us, we're here and we have this studio.
Still growing.
I feel the same way about BYU basketball. There's no expectations.
Let's go.
There's massive
Why
opportunity.
not?
Why not?
Why not?
Win 17 games.
Yeah. Come on. You can win like 10 or 11 of those in non-conference.